Oh my God, hello. This is StarHoes, an astrology podcast where we talk about the hell of living through another apocalypse and the transits coming next week that we are horny for. I am a host, Lana McKenna. I've got a Gem Sun, Pisces Moon, and Capricorn Rising.
My name's Matt Dragonstone. I have a Taurus Sun, Taurus Rising, and Sagittarius Moon.
And I'm Larissa Kesby. I have a Pisces Sun, Leo Moon, Libra Rising, and we are so excited. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, hello, welcome. This is our second episode of StarHoes.
Just try that again, sorry. Ready, 3, 2, 1, go.
You're only going Lockdown Lowdown. We've already done an intro.
But yeah, I know, I was just going to say that we have a great episode coming. I'm so sorry.
No, but we're in the episode.
Yeah,
remember, we've done the intro.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying something new, man.
Okay.
Fucking hell.
You're leaving all of this in, by the way.
Yeah, please do. Okay, let's just go straight into Lockdown Lowdown. Fucking hell.
I'm ready to talk about the prison that we live in.
All right, well, let's do it. We have just literally, the press conference started at 10 past 12. Dan Andrews took his time walking to that podium.
He did.
And it is now 1:22 on Sunday afternoon. We've specifically put this time away so that we can give our listeners the freshest political news as it's impacting us. So we've just listened to the press conference. Dan Andrews is still probably on that podium being quite defensive, I will say, with reporters.
Poor guy.
But yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's Father's Day today and he is telling everyone that they've got to stay home.
Yeah. And you can see he's on the edge. You can see it. It's hard to watch him actually.
Yeah.
So defensive and he's so beaten down. He's like an abused puppy.
Yeah, absolutely. Or an angry crab because he is a Cancer.
He is a Cancer.
Yeah.
He is an angry crab. He's very crabby. But, I think that he's had to deal with a lot over the past 48 hours with the protests.
Yeah.
So anything that he said today was going to be controversial. And more so because a bunch of fucking idiots decided to go out and protest the lockdown.
I was actually really surprised by how many people went, and then I did some basic math of the 4.9 million that we have in the population. I realized that it was
not that many.
not even 1%.
Yeah.
And then I felt a lot better about it, even though the protests were in every state.
All over the world. Crazy.
Yeah. But I don't know. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how the police handled it. I was pleasantly surprised with how, I don't know, kind of everyone else didn't go it was literally just the people that were most selfish that were there.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Matt?
Definitely. When I was looking at the news articles about the protests, there was one particular image, which I'm going to put up on the Insta, which really captured not only the mood of the protest, but also the underlying astrological transit, which is Mars square Saturn. Mars, which is the rebel, which is the selfishness, etc., and Saturn, which is authority in Capricorn. And it's a guy punching a cop. Wow. And a whole bunch of cops around him. And it's a really poignant image, I think, to kind of reflect these unprecedented times. Sorry, Janya.
Wow.
That we're in.
That's out of control.
It is.
That's so wild. So what do we think about the stage 4 restrictions extending for another couple of weeks? How do we feel about it?
I'm really on the fence because I'm not a left-wing extremist, but I also feel like the social impacts are so huge to doing this. And I don't think that stage 4 hasn't been extended for 2 weeks. The state's being put back into lockdown until the 28th of October, really. And then we'll see some further restrictions being eased. And then we'll get back to what we were in May, June, not until the end of November, which means, we'll be able to have Christmas potentially with our families interstate. We've been talking about that. But I still, I feel really conflicted and I just feel a bit sad.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. I also feel Dan Andrews and co knew that.
Yeah.
And
that's why they leaked the documents.
Yeah. And they needed us to understand that we weren't going to be free really soon, anytime soon. And they needed to give us some teeny little bits of freedom between now and the end of October. So it didn't feel like we were extending stage 4 until that time, if that makes sense. So, getting an extra hour exercise a day, very nice. Getting an extra hour in curfew. Thank you, Dad. Very, very nice. But that's kind of it, you know what I mean, until the end of October. And then we do get a lot more freedoms. But, man, stuff.
It's a long way away.
Yeah.
It is. I'm kind of reminded of Italy during the first wave and just how many people were dying. And that's always the yardstick against which I measure any restrictions on my personal freedom. So I'm kind of approaching this from a different perspective. And, I do feel that they've given us just the tiniest bits of freedom to kind of tide us over. But ultimately it's to avoid a catastrophe. It's to avoid mass pandemic, death, the whole box and dice. And, I just think that it's sadly necessary. That being said, though, I'm hardly a social butterfly at the best of times. So I'm not really losing out that much.
Do you remember the footage of Italy during the first wave, and it was literally coffins?
Yeah.
People, coffins being loaded into cars and stuff, and that was broadcast every day basically. And Italians, the community and stuff, even though they had to go, I think, back into a lockdown, they just complied because they were so traumatized by what they were seeing.
They have a really aging population as well, so it impacted them a lot harder.
Definitely. But I do think we haven't really seen anything that traumatic. Do you know what I mean? So we're not as scared. We're probably, some of us, 300 of us approximately, are a little bit, over entitled.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I just kind of feel like I want to see my family at Christmas time. You know what I mean? I also want to go outside and feel safe. So an extra couple of weeks, whatever. Do you know what I mean? I've done tougher shit, so whatever.
Yeah. I do worry about the general population. I worry about, as I said, social issues. I'm a Pisces, so that kind of stuff, I think about that, and I think about the people that are losing their jobs and their homes and their businesses and a grip on their mental health and domestic violence and suicide, and I think about all that. And, what's the balance?
Yeah.
How many people are dying because of all that versus COVID? I feel like it's unbalanced some days, and other days I'm no, we're doing this for the right reasons. I guess it's difficult.
You know what's really evident between this lockdown and the first lockdown? The first lockdown, there was a real sense of community. When you went on social media, everyone was we're in this together. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And now we're so tired, we don't give a fuck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do think between now and the next couple of weeks, I'm going to try to be a little bit more positive on social media and try and spread a positive message.
Yeah.
And just kind of encourage people where we can, because I'd like to see that again on social media just for the last couple of weeks to get through.
I think it'd be really good. And, Victoria has some of the harshest lockdown measures in the world.
Yeah.
Right? There's nowhere else really in the world that's kind of locking people down for as long and as hard as us. And, we'd be ignoring a huge facet of the experience to say that we're not all fatigued.
So tired.
Yeah.
Even I, a hermit who lives in the mountains, is fatigued somewhat by not being able to drive to the Aldi, which is 20 kilometres away from where I live.
Yeah.
I really like those little European chocolates, man. And, their absence is really weighing on me.
Yeah. And probably also the peace that comes with a 20-minute drive alone.
Oh, from your mouth to God's ears.
I think just watching, as the weeks roll on, it's just really difficult to see everybody else in Australia living a really COVID normal life.
That's fucking
as the weeks roll on, it's just getting harder and harder and harder. It was my sister's birthday last week. She had a big birthday party in Western Australia on the weekend.
Everyone was probably smooching each other.
Yeah, you can see it in photos. They're all hugging and happily, and they're all at work. And that's that. As the weeks get on, that's fucking disenchanting.
Especially now that the weather's getting better, you just want to be outside.
Yeah.
I just want to sit in the sun and read Twilight.
I just want to go and walk the fucking tan.
Yeah, dude.
I can't even get to the tan. Nice. I'm not even in the 5K zone. Or walk around Albert Park or go to a beach.
Oh my God, go to a beach.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's crushing. And to think about not being able to do that until the end of October, I'm God damn.
Yeah.
What fuck?
Yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow, isn't it? It's really fucked. Like, so that's incredibly valid for us to kind of, acknowledge that that's the case. I want to go to a fucking beach too, man. I need that ocean, right?
Yeah.
And I imagine, Larissa, as a Pisces, you're the same. You need to be by the water.
Yeah.
Lana, Pisces moon, by the water.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
So it's important also just to go, yeah, okay, sure, it sucks. It sucks total balls. We can't do the stuff that we're used to doing for most of our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also it's important that we just grit our teeth and take it for another couple of weeks so that we can see our families at Christmas, which for me is more important than going to the beach right now today. Right?
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, exactly.
Can we talk about another state leader?
Can we?
That I have mixed feelings about at the moment.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go to town on this woman, but I also do want to go to town on this woman.
I have a feeling I know who you're talking about.
It's obviously Anastasia.
Yeah.
As an ex-Queenslander, I have some feelings.
Yeah, okay. As we are all ex-Queenslanders.
Yeah.
Please tell me.
Just like watching her on the ground of the Gabba, holding an AFL football, looking as smug as a pig in shit, laughing her way to the bank, talking about how she protects Queenslanders while people in border towns of New South Wales can't get access to the help they need, so they have to fly to Sydney. I am fucking triggered.
Yeah, man. I think we're all triggered by that happened in the same week.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
And these AFL players flaunting around by the pool, living the dream, going to the strip clubs, I am not okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
With all this.
Do you want to maybe give us some context on the instance that you're talking about with medical treatment, Larissa? Because I think it's a really quite impactful story.
Yeah, so essentially she signed off for 400 AFL players, officials and their families to cross the border from New South Wales into Queensland and go into quarantine in hotels on the Gold Coast where they were meant to be quarantining, but there's photos of them by the pool, living quite freely within these beautiful resorts. And in the same week, a couple that were pregnant with twins were told not to apply for an exemption to have their baby in Queensland because it wouldn't be approved in time. So they had to fly to Sydney, which is crazy when you were pregnant with twins. And then they had to wait 17 hours for surgery because of the hospital being backed up, and they lost one of the babies in the process.
I can't believe that.
It's just disgusting.
Yeah,
it's revolting.
I was really...
And then to see that images of her holding a football on the Gabba, smiling, knowing that that's going to bring in so much money for her, and political in Queensland, people are yeah, she's looking after us, she's protecting Queenslanders, and we get the AFL. Fuck all of them people, and fuck all of them people. Jesus Christ,
it's okay.
I'm getting a bit Queensland.
Yeah, you were feeling your corporate oats. It's all G. Get into it, gal. You want a dollar?
I need a tin of 4X. I just
Wilson mango.
I feel really. I think it's my
way more than triggered. I would say.
Yeah, it's my Libra rising. I'm just the injustice of it all. Truly upsets me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's completely disgusting. I was really hoping that the media would maybe give it to her a little bit.
And they haven't.
Maybe hold her to account.
So basically they're going to the polls on the 31st of October.
And they'll reopen the borders on the
1st of November.
Yeah,
and finally allow these people in border towns. And some of them can't get to full-size grocery stores.
Yeah.
Their dentist might be over the border in Queensland. Really essential services that they just can't access.
Yeah.
And then to have those 400 people from the AFL cross the border, the double standards are just revolting.
Yeah. Definitely. And I do think that when you're in whenever you're in a crisis or something like that, you really need your leaders to show empathy. And I just feel there are some leaders at the moment, ScoMo in particular, and Peter Dutton.
No empathy.
Yeah, they're just not showcasing any sort of empathy. I would say the same about Dan Andrews to a degree.
Yeah.
But nowhere near as bad as, Anastasia, ScoMo and Peter Dutton.
Yeah, Peter Dutton.
Yeah. Just robots, man. And Peter Dutton fully does look like Voldemort. Is he sick?
Well, he looks like a potato, in my opinion.
Man,
I think Voldemort is far better looking than Peter Dutton.
I've got stage 4 cancer, and he looks worse than me.
He does.
Like, I look so much healthier than he does. Yeah, fully.
Hold up. So Anastasia's birthday is the 25th of July, 1969.
She a Leo?
There's a Leo that will not be told what to do.
Fact.
Yeah.
Look, I think that there's one of the things that I've noticed as part of the whole coronavirus pandemic is just how much government resource can be deployed when it suits and when it's necessary and when it's called for. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of the state premiers and also ScoMo and the National Cabinet really are putting themselves in a situation where they can deploy resources to allow people, for instance, to seek medical treatment if a Queensland hospital is the closest to where they live and they live in New South Wales or what have you.
Yeah.
That can be made, that can happen, right?
Yeah.
The infrastructure, and given that we've had 6 months effectively of various degrees of responses to the pandemic, the deployment of those resources can happen. They can happen reasonably quickly and they can happen in a way that's safe for everybody. They're not for a reason. And I think that reason is political, regardless of whether they're Labor, Liberal or otherwise. And that is the infuriating aspect of this. This is not a political event.
Yeah.
This is a public health emergency, and we need to respond unilaterally, bipartisanly.
And the borders have been politicized. I don't care what anyone says.
And then politicized.
And then Mark McGowan not even signing on to the National Cabinet's agreement to open up by Christmas. Piss off. Go be your own country, Western Australia. I'm happy to use my passport to go visit my family. Whatever.
That's so funny.
They should just go have a referendum, be your own country. You're the size of the rest of the country anyway.
Very true.
They refer to us all as Eastern Staters anyway. Come on.
Very, very true.
They're so removed.
What was
Sorry, Mum.
What was I going to say? But you're right. You're absolutely right, Matt. Everything has been politicized. Everything is all about, I guess, kind of reaching out and supporting their own bases. Does that make sense? Regardless of what party they are, they're literally just trying to look after their own base for votes for the whatever next election. No one's looking long term. Yeah. And that is really just going to end up biting us in the butt. And it's also why nothing's happening on climate. Yeah. It's a complete joke. Yeah.
Everywhere you go now, you get straws again all of a sudden. Plastic bags are popping up again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
weird.
It's
true.
Yeah,
on the topic of IGAs that we were speaking about before we started recording, I was offered a plastic bag at the IGA just down the road from my place today.
Yeah, really? That's crazy.
I don't think I was even charged. It was one of those reusable ones, so barely.
Did you shake your head man, what did you just ask me?
Who have you become?
Yeah.
No, I didn't shake my head at all. I was very glad to receive it because I had quite a few items and I'd forgotten my bag.
Oh, my God.
No, I don't think I should be blamed for that. I think there needs to be a response. If the necessity of lockdown stands for anything, it stands for the people's inability to govern themselves and the necessity of a state leader or an authority figure to tell us what to do. I was happy to receive that plastic bag. I know I feel bad about it. My girlfriend's going to kill me for saying this, but I just needed to put my shit in something so that I could get back in the car and go home.
If only handbags weren't gendered, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Then you would have.
I don't even use a handbag anymore. It's got more dust on it than anything I own. Also, I think my shoes just think that I've died. My shoes just must be in my cupboard, commemorating me, commiserating and commemorating.
Very fair.
It's weird.
Fair. Well, I think that's it. Should we take a break?
Let's take a break.
Awesome. Great. Fab. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to AstroloTea. I'm your friendly host, Matt Dragonstone. In this segment, we have a look at a couple of really interesting transits for the week ahead and talk about what they mean for you, your life, the universe, and everything.
Oh my God, that's a lot. It's a whole lot.
This week we have the Sun in Virgo forming a trine with Jupiter in Capricorn on the 10th. And we also have Mars in Aries stationing retrograde on the same day. A couple of days later on the 13th, we have Venus in Leo trining Chiron in Aries. If none of that makes sense, that's totally okay. The point of this segment is to break it down, make it simple, and give you something valuable.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. Just really quickly, Matt, why have we chosen these transits for next week? Like, why, as an astrologer, do you think they're important to discuss?
Well, I think that these transits are powerful, they're fun, they're easily recognizable, and you'll be able to kind of work with them if you approach them in the right way. Okay, so the first cab off the rank is the Sun in Virgo forming a trine with Jupiter in Capricorn.
Matt, can you just tell us before we get into everything, just quickly what a trine is for those who might not know?
Yeah, definitely. So a trine is what's known as an aspect or an angle in astrology. And basically, it's just the relationship between two planets in the sky. Sometimes they're at right angles, sometimes they're opposite one another, sometimes they sit on top of one another. And the distance that they're separated by determines whether the angle is positive or negative, or as I like to think of it, difficult or easy. And trines are about as easy as it gets in astrology. It's a beautiful aspect. It's very harmonious. It's like two people who speak the same language having a wonderful conversation.
So I guess if you just think about like the universe as a giant circle and then just use a protractor to draw your way around, just like you did in year 5 at school, then that's a really good way of understanding like the trines and the squares and all of the different aspects. They're just like named differently, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. Exactly right.
Awesome.
What are the degrees for a trine, Matt?
Well, if you take the circle and you divide it into 3, it's 120 degrees.
Cool.
Love that. Love that for us.
So I've actually heard in the past this specific aspect referred to as the cosmic blessing. So this is an exciting day.
It's a wonderful day. Yeah, it's really beautiful energy. So the sun, which is basically the big controller inside all of us, it represents our core drive and motivation, our soul, the core of who we are. That's in Virgo at the moment. So all the Virgos are having their birthdays. And Jupiter, which is this wonderful, expansive, generous, overflowing planetary energy, very lucky, is in Capricorn. These are both earth signs. So it's a great day to actualize and put into practical manifestation whatever it is that your heart desires, basically. If you're motivated to do something or create something, Jupiter is going to kind of give you a little bit of a boost, a bit of a cosmic blessing, so to speak.
That's really cool. So with Jupiter, Matt, is it normally like does it love Capricorn, or is that kind of like difficult for it to be in Capricorn? Because normally Jupiter's, like you were saying, it's like really generous, expansive, it's like a party, everyone loves Jupiter, it's luck, but Capricorn isn't really like that, right?
Yeah, the two kind of categories don't really get along that well. Jupiter, yep, definitely, like you said, it's big, expansive, it's a party. Jupiter loves traveling and the big picture and setting its sights on the horizons. And that's the energy that we're talking about with that planet. But every planet is in a sign at some point in the zodiac. Capricorn is the energy that is expressing itself, like the filter, that the planetary energy is expressing itself through. So the Capricorn style doesn't necessarily, get along that well with Jupiter as a planetary energy. Capricorn's more about restriction, and it's more about, focusing on the here and now, and taking real practical steps to achieve real concrete goals. This is not necessarily aligned with what Jupiter as an energy is all about, so to speak.
Yeah. So Capricorn's like the Hermione, and Jupiter would be more like a Ron. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Yes. So Jupiter is like Ron and just wants to eat and have a party and like not really think about tomorrow. And Capricorn's like, we have homework to do, Ron. What are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never really thought about the astrology in terms of Harry Potter, but I'd probably say that Jupiter's more like Hagrid.
Oh, love that. That's
like
nice.
Big and hairy and generous and always surrounded by animals and really connected to, those kind of, energies basically around the Hogwarts of our lives. And Capricorn's probably a little bit Snape, a little bit Voldemort. No offense to any Capricorns.
Oh my God, I'm offended for Capricorns right now.
I have, not even joking, I've fully seen a meme of like Capricorn and it is Voldemort. Like, that's no joke. Whoa. People have made those connections already.
Interestingly, though, Capricorn's also a little bit Dumbledore as well, right?
Yeah.
So Capricorn's powerful. It's about power, and it's about the power of the individual, and it's about taking really self-sufficient, self-reliant steps towards making it for better or for worse. And my apologies to all the Capricorns listening.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I mean, I'm Cap Rising. Like, I totally vibe with all of that energy. I even vibed when we were talking about Voldemort. I was like, fuck yeah. Like, I get it. I'm into it. Love status.
What a beautiful, mature way of looking at it. And that's another thing that Capricorn's renowned for. But I think overall, we can say about all three of those examples that Capricorn is self-sufficient. It's not necessarily like looking for or even really wants help from the universe. It's more about doing it all themselves. Jupiter just wants to help everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
So to wrap this guy up, because we've got a lot to talk about. So I guess people should just make the most of this day. I feel like with this kind of energy, especially for me, maybe a Pisces, I feel like from my perspective, there might be a tendency just to like hang back, take it easy, and just enjoy the happy day and the happy vibes. But really, like, I should be like cashing in on the great opportunities of this day, right?
Yeah, you'll get rewarded for hard work and putting in the effort next Thursday.
Yeah.
Or this Thursday when this comes out.
100%, man. Yeah, totally agree. So on the same day as the Sun in Virgo trines Jupiter in Capricorn, the 10th of September, we have Mars in Aries going retrograde.
Yeah, so can I just my impressions of this when I first read it before I even started researching, it feels like repressed, immature anger. For anyone Aries going through this retrograde, it's going to be tough, right?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't think it's anything to be afraid of. I don't think it's necessarily bad as well. I think that, when we talk about Mars, we talk about pure drive for a start. We talk about pure motivation and just massive, direct, unfiltered energy. And when we talk about Aries, we talk about more or less the same thing, right? Because Mars rules Aries and Mars is at home in Aries.
Absolutely.
But when we talk about retrogradation and retrograde motion, we talk about a planet's energy being turned inward and facing backwards, because it looks to us on Earth like the planet is moving backwards through the sky. Obviously, this isn't happening, but it's a perspectival thing.
Yeah, word.
So during this time, I feel like maybe Aries suns and Capricorn suns need to be maybe a little bit more kind to themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I think kindness is always the case, regardless of the aspect, regardless of the transit. At any point in time, being kind to yourself is the first step towards radical self-care, which is always a good idea, right?
Yeah. And I think people really freak out during retrogrades, like Mercury being a good example of being completely out of control in social media. So what can we do in during a retrograde? Like, what things should we be doing to make sure that it's not as scary and big as everyone makes it out to be?
Yeah, and how can we actually take advantage of this time?
Well, it's probably good to start an answer to that around discussing what we can expect during the retrograde, okay? Retrogrades are about a planet appearing to us on Earth like it's moving backwards, which means that it's facing the past. And typically a retrograde will involve taking a bit of a backwards step in many respects and looking at what's happened in the period between the last retrograde and now. So Mars tends to go retrograde every, 2 years or so. And, we have to kind of look at what we've forged ahead with, what we've begun, what we've started, where our motivations have been, and what we've applied our energy to during that time. We can expect during the Mars retrograde to have to go back over and redo things, redo stuff that we may have started in the past 6, 12, 18 months or so. So I think really sort of self-care, kindness, how to deal with it, how to kind of really work with the energy. First of all, expect to look backwards, expect to go backwards a little bit, expect to review what you've done and started. And if you have that expectation at the start, how the retrograde manifests for you individually in terms of your chart is going to be easier to handle because you'll know what's coming. And that's really the big gift of astrology. It's forewarning. Forewarned is forearmed.
So I need to work out where Mars is in my chart, first of all.
You definitely
to see where it might impact areas of my life and then kind of get prepared for that.
Can I tell you, I have the worst freaking Mars placement. So my Mars is in Cancer, which just like it's full on passive aggressive behavior, right? Which is true. Like I can be very passive aggressive. But with this, it's in my 7th house, I think, or like right on my like relationship line. So does that mean for me, Matt, I can expect to potentially just be more passive aggressive in my one-on-one relationships?
That's going to be a part of it, right? And I think if you're not conscious of it, that's going to, manifest in that way through passive aggression, potentially with your relationships with others. Mm-hmm. But also it's a really good chance to, look back at what you've started in your relationship and tie up loose ends. That's a really practical, positive way of putting a Mars retrograde into words.
Mm.
That's really beautiful. I can't wait to do that. And I just kind of feel like this whole retrograde, so with Mars particularly, like to me, it just makes me think of like, that meme with Elmo and he's on fire and he's got his arms up.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen that one. It's fucking hilarious.
This is like the same energy, right?
Yeah.
Potentially, yeah. I think it's all about how you approach it, right? So I think at any point with astrology, we're just talking about the background noise. We have free will. And we have a choice over how we express the energy that's in the skies and around us in the cosmos at any point in time. It's nothing to be afraid of. I have Mars right on my ascendant in Taurus from the 12th house to the ascendant. And anybody who knows astrology will know that that's an utterly fucked placement for Mars. I am in no way afraid of this retrograde. In fact, I'm looking forward to it because you've got to look past what the memes say. You've got to look past the shock and awe, and you've got to look at what the opportunities are at any given point in time. With Mars retrograde, the opportunity is to go back over what you've done, tie up the loose ends, get a bit of energy that's directed towards the past, not necessarily the future, not necessarily a good time to start things when Mars is in retrograde, but definitely a wonderful time to make sure that you've got everything ship-shape so that when Mars moves direct, you're able to push ahead with whatever the fuck it is you want to do, because that's what Mars is about, fucking doing things and doing fucking things as well.
Love that.
Guys, Mars is in my 2nd house in Sag. Am I going to go broke? That's not a joke.
So when you were born, Mars was in the 2nd house in Sag.
Yeah.
So with the, with the retrograde, Mars will be going retrograde potentially, and I don't have your chart in front of me. You got Libra rising?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably around like the 7th house, right? So Mars is going retrograde in the 7th house. If you've started a relationship in the past 2 years and you've pushed ahead like a bull at a gate, so to speak, you might find that you have to go back over the terms of that relationship, the foundations of that relationship. And everyone gets freaked out when, you mention things like that, but it's a perfect time to get to know your partner better. Yeah. It's a perfect time to deepen the relationship by just firming up whatever it is that the relationship sits upon, really.
Poor homie. Should we talk about Venus in Leo, Trine, Chiron in Aries?
Yeah, let's do that. On the topic of going back over things in relationships, it's a perfect segue, actually. So last week we spoke about Venus moving into Leo and how it's just peak self-care season when Venus is in Leo.
Love that.
Taking care of yourself, luxuriating, etc. And it's forming a trine, and that's that beautiful cosmic blessing aspect to Chiron in Aries. And Chiron's the wounded healer, right? Yeah. Chiron hurts us but heals us, teaches us and pushes us forward on a path of evolution. So it's a really good time on the 13th of September when Venus in Leo forms a trine with Chiron in Aries to approach healing conversations with your partner. That's one manifestation of it, in a way that's going to be a bit more harmonious and have a bit more kind of quote-unquote luck than, say, if there was a square from, Chiron to Venus or something similar.
Fully. I love Chiron because I love looking at, like, whenever I'm looking at somebody's birth chart for the first time, I always look for where their Chiron is because I'm like, who hurt you? Like, what what do you need to, like, focus on or confront, perhaps? Because isn't Chiron that thing that, it's the thing you want to do least, or the wound that never heals for you as a person. But if you do, that's like your biggest opportunity for healing, growth, and evolving Is that right?
Yeah, I'm like, Chiron is like what we're here to do. It's like it's our life, what our purpose, like what we're here to achieve and what we have to work through in order to be our most evolved selves.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I really love this one as well, because when I was doing research, it was basically saying, like, this is kind of the time where, you know, if you've got, you know, scars, pain, maybe physical scars potentially, like moi, this is kind of the day where you'll be like, I accept myself for who I am, scars and all, and you'll just feel like way more beautiful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's finding beauty in pain.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you want to do, like, maybe a pigeon pose in yoga, that one is very, very painful, but just kind of, like, rest in it. That's kind of the time for it, right? But I also feel like if this transit was a song, it would be Christina Aguilera's 2002 hit Beautiful. That's what it would be.
Yeah, definitely, actually. I think it's a really beautiful way of summarizing what the transit's going to be like.
Yeah, and I just, like, for me, vulnerability is kind of the thing that has enabled me to have the most growth, if that makes sense, of being vulnerable. And I'm sure you guys feel exactly the same way. And I know that that's really hard for a lot of people. It's freaking hard for me, even, like, you know, as something I've focused on for, you know, years now. But, like, if you're going to try and get vulnerable, especially with your partner, like, that's the time to do it.
Yeah, I think it's a really beautiful way of putting it, Lana. My experience of Chiron, just through my professional work and also through study, is that it's the wound that we're born with. It's a marker of our own imperfection. In fact, there's a big debate in astrology as to whether or not Chiron actually rules Virgo as a planetary ruler, because at the moment Virgo is ruled by Mercury. But
that makes so much goddamn sense.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sort of tending to agree with it. But Chiron in Aries is about the wound that we're born with in our personality and the core of who we are. And Venus in Leo forming that beautiful, harmonious, and in this instance, healing aspect, the trine, with Chiron and Aries, talks to the woundedness and the insecurity that we have around who we are as people and with our personalities. And if you have those two planets in that beautiful configuration, you might want to take that opportunity to discuss with your partner around those issues. If they are an issue in your relationship, you'll get much further on that day than if you tried at other times, for instance.
So on this day, I think the energy that might be around is like you need to be confident enough to accept your pain and what hurts you, and really like let other people see that, because it's going to end in them loving you more and seeing you in a different light.
Fucking spot on, Janye. I really agree with that statement. That's really quite on the money.
That's awesome. So can I summarize really quickly?
Sure.
Go for it.
So, okay. So for that week, we have a really good day on the Thursday, the 10th. So Jupiter is going to trine with the sun around 8:30 in the morning. But then at 2 o'clock in the morning is when that trine kicks off. And then the same day at 8:22 a.m. is when Mars retrograde kicks off. So that's like a 2020 energy. And then 3 days later, on the Sunday, it could pay off to be vulnerable about what is hurting us, or maybe, you know, some pain that we've been carrying our whole lives potentially. Or you can just play beautiful on repeat. The choice is yours.
Totally.
Yeah, right? Sounds awesome.
Or you could do both. I fucking love that song.
It is a really good song, actually.
It is. It's so good. And the film clip, very good.
Isn't that just a film clip with a bunch of people crying?
Yeah.
Is this like Christina Aguilera's black-haired phase?
Yes.
I didn't love that for her, but okay.
Is that the jeans dirty, that film clip? Is that phase?
No.
No? Sorry, I just had this massive image of Christina Aguilera's crutch just jump into my consciousness. I blame Chiron.
Yeah, all dudes have that every now and then, I think, right? Yeah. Really sticks with you, that one.
It does. It does.
That's a great jam song, though. Cool. Should we take a quick break?
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, should I do sis, that's the tea.
I love that. I'm so happy you remembered too.
Thank you. No, I don't need a count in. I'm just going to start talking. So, welcome to These Unprecedented Times. This week I got the name of this segment correct, so I'm improving week on week. Thank you very much. In this segment, as we did last week, each the three of us are going to pull a card out of our decks, and we're going to have a conversation about some of the energy that might be coming out of our little decks and out of our hands today. So yeah, as I was saying last week, just stay with us. This is actually probably my favorite segment, not only because I run it, but also because I just really love cards and how random they can be and how meaningful and like cutting they can be as well. So this is always my favorite segment. So let's get into it. I'm going to hand over to Matt now, and he's going to pull a tarot card for us.
Thank you kindly, Larissa. I've pulled a tarot card for the next week or so, and good news, it's number 21 in the Major Arcana. I'm using the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, and it's the World.
Whoa, I knew it was the World. I knew it before you said it. I knew it. I know you love the World.
What does that mean?
What a beautiful card.
The World's amazing.
The World is all about culmination and fulfillment, my friends. It's about the ending of a cycle.
Wild.
So good.
It's beautiful. For those watching along at home, it's a wonderfully illustrated card from Pamela Coleman Smith in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. It's a lady in the center of a laurel wreath holding two scepters, one in each hand. And around her on each of the four corners are representatives of the four elemental signs: a human face for air, an eagle for fire. It's a human face for earth or something. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of fucking pictures and they all relate to something. I'm very good at my job, just FYI, dragonstoneinsights.com.
It's so funny.
The symbology escapes me. I've been put on the spot, but, the meaning still remains, and that is culmination, fulfillment, end of a cycle, beginning of a new cycle.
Are you talking about the top right corner, the eagle?
Yeah.
It looks like Sam the Eagle from the Muppets, right? No?
I don't know who that is. Who's that?
Oh.
I don't know who that is either, guys.
I think his name is Sam. I can't remember, but he's a Muppet. You know Sam the Eagle?
Oh, yeah, the bald eagle. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I know that down the bottom there's a bull and a lion, and the bull is earth and the lion is fire. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that one of the two at the top is water and one of the other ones is air. So there you go. 20 years I've been doing this.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know based on this segment. So thanks, Matt. So in summary, your card is good.
Yes.
Thank you. So I am I'm going to pull mine next as well. Again, I'm going to give you some little ASMR shufflies just to prove that this is legit. So I'm actually using a new deck of cards that one of my beautiful friends gifted me for my birthday this year, and I've never actually used them before. Sorry, Alison. I'm using them today, though, for the first time, and they're actually the Game of Thrones tarot cards, and they are sick. They are so fun. I'm actually it's like reigniting my love for tarot by using these cards. And so yeah, that's really, really nice. So the card I've actually pulled is really a really beautiful card as well. And I'm really excited about this. I just pulled out the Empress.
Wow.
I know. Matt's gasp. I love that. So the Empress in this tarot deck is actually Daenerys before she went crazy. And she's on her boat and she's sailing to Westeros with her 3 dragons. So that's the Empress in the Game of Thrones tarot. But for me, this card really symbolizes beautiful feminine energy and security, abundance, relationships flourishing. It really is about stability and just that beautiful watery feminine energy. It's so funny, both the podcasts that we've done, I've pulled a card that represents me a little bit as well, which is quite funny. This is the second week in a row I've done this. So yeah, I'm really, really happy about this little Empress lady.
I love that. So it's the power of femininity. Yeah.
Yeah. It feels, I actually the more that I think about it and the more I think it's really talking to this this Venus in Leo, Trine, Chiron in Aries for me.
Yeah, I was literally thinking that.
like just accepting who you are and like being okay with all of your beautiful flaws and sharing that with people. I feel like that's a really feminine thing to do, and that's the feminine energy that could be around on that day.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
Do you think that's how it's going to manifest as well, like given that everyone's going to be a little bit more potentially chilled out in a couple of weeks' time?
Yeah.
Like in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah.
We're free?
Yeah, that would be beautiful, wouldn't it? Like, she's on a ship sailing towards her future. So I personally would love some freedom. So maybe that's why I've pulled it as well.
I personally would love that crown and robe she's wearing.
It's beautiful. So Lana, what have you pulled?
So I already pulled mine. It fell out as I was shuffling. So it's number 50. So I'm using the same deck as always. So the Hero's Journey Dream Oracle by Kelly Sullivan Walden. And yeah, it's number 50 in that pack. And it's actually really beautiful. So it's called Become the Elixir. Let your glow do the heavy lifting. So just off the bat, it already sounds like the same sort of like Venus Chiron, like accepting yourself kind of energy, but let's go deeper. So the picture is a woman wearing a dress. She kind of looks like a pixie. Like I'm definitely going to post this one so you guys can see it. But it's kind of like she's holding like a bucket and it's spilling out, but it also looks like a crescent moon and there's all this like water flowing out. And she's all like white hair and like flowy robes. And yeah, she's just super gorgeous. It's out of control.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah. And I guess the mantra is the elixir encoded within me is now being contagiously transmitted. That is a little worrying that we are like we're in
Corona, yeah. I've got corona inside of me and I'm transmitting it.
Yeah.
I'd rather not be come into contact with someone who's contagious.
Yeah, I know. Like that's really like triggering language for right now, but let's press on.
I think that's about the sun in Virgo.
Yeah, I would think so.
And the time with Jupiter, like that I feel like that day the energy is going to be contagious.
Yeah. Jupiter.
Everyone's going to be so happy.
For sure.
Definitely. Yep.
I'll read the message. So you've had life-altering experiences, learned libraries worth of knowledge, and are now incalculably wealthy, spiritually and otherwise. Guys, I feel like this is for me. I'm sorry. Whew. It probably feels selfish to people this life-affirming wisdom to yourself. And if you could, through osmosis, you would transmit the contents of your journey, every experience, trial, and reward to every person that you meet. And yet, if you share when uninvited, your gifts will fall upon deaf ears. Honor the wisdom you've earned and learned while honoring the people in your circle of life, but by remembering that you are the elixir. Without having to say a word or do a single thing, you are the medicine, blessing, and presence that soothes the hearts, minds, and souls of all that you meet. You are so steeped in the elixir that you do the work simply by being, beaming, and showing up. That's so nice. Definitely sounds like more Jupiter energy though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It does, yeah. It's really interesting. I think that this is probably going to show us, or what that card's pointing to is maybe a different way of looking at how we as a community have dealt with the pandemic, the contagion.
Mm.
You know, everyone's been really kind of, throwing shade on anyone they see without a face mask, sometimes without understanding why that person may not be wearing a face mask. There's been this big community policing of each other.
Yeah.
And hopefully if we get some good news, then maybe we can sort of celebrate as a community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. I also feel like, you know how like there were those signs and they're like, kindness is contagious too, with like a little smiley face. Oh.
So is herpes. But anyway.
Yeah. Like normally I would roll my eyes and just like, please shut up. But I do think that that's what this message is. Do you know what I mean? It's like being nicer to each other. It's like really acknowledging that we've really been through some shared goddamn trauma together, but we're coming out the other side of it. Like spring has sprung, like things are getting better, and we should just kind of like enjoy that and try to transmit it to each other as well.
Definitely. Spring is totally a different vibe in Victoria and Melbourne specifically. For those who don't live down here, it's talk about it, guys. It's so different.
Oh
it's so beautiful. You can like feel it.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Absolutely. Like the last 2 days, I was just like, oh my God, I've got my groove back. What's happening? I'm dancing. Like, and so nice.
So what I do want to ask you guys before we wrap up, I want to talk about like winter being over, and I want to talk about like how hard obviously it's been. And I would love to ask you guys what seeds you think you've planted during winter that you would like to see grow in spring.
Purple Kush mainly, but
oh, that's funny.
I don't know, man. Like in terms of seeds that I've planted over winter that I want to see grow in spring, probably for me, it's been seeds of resilience and flexibility.
Yeah.
So being able to respond to challenges, obviously the big elephant in the room, but also being able to kind of push through that and, you know, taking the valuable lessons about how much I can actually handle. Because I thought I wouldn't be able to handle lockdown. I thought I wouldn't be able to handle losing my house or moving to the country with, you know, a newborn during a pandemic, but I did.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think we've all got similar tales, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And now it's exciting because you're like spring for me is about like rebirth. It's kind of everywhere. So I feel like winter, you know, we go in, we do a little bit of hibernation. And I think that whatever we plan for and think about in winter comes to fruition in spring, whether that be kind of mentally, emotionally, like spiritually as well. So I guess that's why I'm asking you guys that question. Because I think that winter, whilst it's been really hard this year, I think it's been a really important time for us to kind of go inward and work out, you know, what we're going to be doing next and what the next chapter for everyone looks like and what the world we're creating is going to look like as well, because it's going to be different.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, definitely, yeah.
What about you, Lana? What have you planted during winter?
So obviously this winter was like a bit of a tough one, like just with like surgery, radiation, all that sort of jazz. But I think for me, like the biggest thing is like realizing what's inside my control and outside of my control, and being okay with what is outside of my control, but also in times of like stress or whatever, am I stressing myself out because I'm trying to focus on things that like are generally outside of my control, where I'm trying to control them? So being aware of that has been like a big learning for me, like since coming out of like surgeries, radiation, all that stuff. But I think going into spring, it's enjoying the good times and being aware of when they're happening and to not ruin them for myself. So obviously having a Pisces moon, I'm very rich in a life, right? But I remember last kind of like summer and autumn when things were really good and, you know, it was like a really beautiful time. I was in a really great routine. I, you know, was just having chemo, like I was cleared of cancer and it was my birthday. And I remember like hanging out with you guys in between lockdowns and it was a really beautiful time, but I didn't really let myself enjoy it mentally, if that makes sense. Yeah. I was really like, oh, it could come back. What happens if it comes back? And I really, I just kind of gave myself a hard time for no reason. And that's, you know, probably to do with my Capricorn. But I think coming through everything that we've gone through in winter, it's just, being like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to enjoy the good times while I have them and I'm going to get out of my own way. So I think that's it.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Oh.
I think that I think I'm learning myself that control is an illusion anyway.
Isn't it?
And that's something that's a really hard lesson for me. Like I'm a complete control freak. So learning that I actually have control over nothing all the time and I have never controlled anything. Yeah. I think that that's been a really hard lesson for me to learn as well. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. It's really freeing when you're like, you know what? We can't control fucking dick. Like, it's fine. Yeah. And just kind of, being at one with the universe and just enjoying the moments while we have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think for me, during winter, I really struggled with my self-worth. Because a lot of like who I am is made up of interacting with other people because I'm as I said, Pisces Sun, Leo Moon, and everything hangs around. All my placements are about me being with people, getting energy from people. They're all about being recognized, being seen, being heard. You know, I need all of that in order to survive, and I haven't been able to obtain any of that during winter at all. You know, I've been putting on one-woman shows for my boyfriend for the last 6 months, the poor guy.
I love that.
Whether he wants them or not, they are unplanned. So I think for me, learning that everything I need is already inside me, and I don't need anybody else to validate me and validate my self-worth. I think that's been a real big focus for me over winter, and hoping I can be reborn into spring into somebody that feels like they have everything they need inside of them.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like we're all just bringing more of ourselves to the present moment.
Yeah.
From your example, Lana, and from yours, Larissa, it just sounds like, we've realised that the resources are inside us and that we should make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Because now we know the sun doesn't always shine.
Yeah, ain't that the fucking truth? Good Lord.
It's not always going to be springtime with honeybees and roses. Like you gotta get through the hard stuff as well.
Yeah, and it does make like all of those, like when the sun does shine again, you're like way happier.
Yeah, you can appreciate it more.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Pour a beer.
What do you think what is it going to look like, do you reckon, once we're all kind of back to sort of mixing and socializing with each other and we're allowed out and we can get out of this sort of, 5-kilometer radius business and start sort of being amongst each other again? Do you think that people are really going to give as much of a shit about stuff?
I think we're going to be like wild animals for like a week and then it'll calm down.
Yeah, I think that unevolved people will be wild animals for a week. I think for me, I'm a little bit like nervous of about doing too much and giving too much of my energy out, and like burning out too quickly. You know what I mean? Like I don't want it to get so bad that we have to go back in. So I want to like take it easy once restrictions are lifted and try not to go too hard too fast.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of on the same wavelength. Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel the same way, but I will say, Larissa, for a Leo moon to say that is some highly evolved shit. Like when you're a member of the Vines, hot damn. That's great.
I think it's it's learning, right? Like after everything that we've been through, I think the easy thing would be to just go crazy and spread this thing again. But we have a government that's not scared to shut everything down. So
yeah,
I think we have to be a little more careful.
Yeah,
truth.
I do think if you've come out of this and you haven't changed in any way, like that's probably a bit of a flag that you're like unevolved.
That is brutal.
Sorry,
that is very brutal.
Sorry about it. I'm just saying, if that's you, maybe have a look in the goddamn mirror.
Yeah, I think everyone will have changed, whether they are acutely aware of it or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't live through something like this and be the same person at the end. I think that there will be internal changes for everyone.
Well, can I just tell you, our Prime Minister hasn't changed.
Yeah, I think capitalism's changed. I think celebrities changed. At least he didn't go to Hawaii during this pandemic, Like that's growth.
Yeah, but like, okay, so is that the state of everything so that like if our Prime Minister doesn't flee during a global crisis, we count ourselves lucky? Like that is not a good thing.
Yeah.
That bar's pretty fucking low.
Yeah, right?
If that's the case.
Not even meeting his own low standards. Anyway, I could rant for days. I'm not going to get into it now. I'll get into it later.
It's a conversation for later. We'll go political next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, I think that's really good. I'm glad we all pulled really positive cards. Like I think that they talk to the transits again that Matt was sharing in AstroloTea as well. So I feel really good about that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, me too, man.
Really beautiful.
All right, so I'm gonna wrap us up now because that's all we have today. It's been an awesome episode, so thank you so much for listening in. Just a reminder that new episodes are up every Monday, so you can subscribe or follow us on Spotify so that you don't miss an episode. Also, if you have the gram, reach out to us and follow us at Hello StarHoes. And if you enjoyed this podcast, we'd also love for you to leave us a review as well. One more call out, if you would love to know more about your own personal stars, we definitely recommend that you do a little bit of research, but if you'd like to talk to a real life wizard, then make sure that you book a reading with Matt Dragonstone as well, and you can just go to dragonstoneinsights.com to do that too. As I said, we're going to put everything into the links into the show notes, and that's all we've got. Please wear a mask, wash your hands, look after each other, and be kind. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you next time.